Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so final session, but as I said before the break, the biggest session, I think now, and it is from a panel size point of view, actually. But the next generation is what we're going to be hearing from next. And I'm going to say one of my closest sparring partners that I work with, Sue Howarth, is going to take the lead on this. As we know, the next quite feisty, but I know that Sue will keep them under control and get the best out of them. So rather than myself on this occasion, I think, Sue, I'm going to more than hand across to yourself to take the lead on the next gen panel for me and tell us what are the future thinking about.
Thank you very much, Dave. Good morning, everyone. Get straight into this panel this morning, and I know that the aspiring young ladies are joining us very shortly. It's really important that for our next generation, they are the shaping the future. And we've talked this morning around purpose and social value and social impact. But the meaning of that is really going to be driven by some of our panel that are here this morning. And I'm delighted to introduce, there will be 4 of them, just waiting for May, I think, to come into the room. So anyway, so I'll get started and then May will join us. So this morning, what we're going to do is, this is the start of a series, I feel, of following our 4 panelists throughout their career. So today is very much around an introduction to our next generation panel and just asking them 3 main questions. And then there is opportunity, if you put questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to integrate those into the conversation where I can. And like everything, we can follow up after that. So I'm delighted to introduce, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves individually. Abigail, can I come to you first? If you just take yourself off mute, thank you. And why don't you just tell us all a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Abigail and I'm a financial advisor. So I went through my degree at the University of Edinburgh, came back home and had a few little different jobs and then retrained to be a financial advisor. So I'm 25 and my role involves obviously financial advice, but I'm in charge of the team's social media, financial education workshops in schools. So I go into different schools and help different ages, just financial awareness really, and financial well-being in the workplace, workshops I do as well. So my role's very varied, but I love it being like that.
Thank you very much, Abigail, and looking forward to hearing more from you very shortly. Sammy, can I come to you for you to introduce yourself?
Yes, so hi everyone, I'm Sammy and I've just recently graduated from the University of Derby and I did event management. So I did this in the first lockdown, and I tell you what, it was very challenging, but I'm so glad that I've graduated now. And I'm currently in the role of a marketing and events intern at the Derby Conference Centre. And this is really good for me because obviously I did events as my degree, but then I also have found a passion for marketing as well, and they really do interlink. So it's a really nice place for me to be at the minute.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sammy. And Alex, can I come to you?
Hi everyone, I'm Alex and I recently graduated from the University of Nottingham from my English Literature degree, and I'm now in the process of doing a law conversion course at the University of Law in Leeds. So I've been completing that online at the moment, everything from home, which has been quite challenging. But I'm also in the process of narrowing down firms, different law firms I want to apply to. So looking at the social values being really relevant for me in terms of how I'm going to do that and which firms I'm going to choose.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, have we got May on the stage? Not just yet. So what we'll do is she's just...
Hi, so thank you, sorry. We are just, here she is, perfect, just like contract. Thanks, May.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, had a few technical issues.
Not a problem at all, and welcome, May. So what we've done so far, just to set the scene for you, is we've started to make the introductions to our audience this morning. So without putting you on the spot, we were just coming actually round to you. So why don't you just introduce yourself to everyone here today?
Yeah, thank you, Sue. My name's May, I'm 20, and I'm currently at Bournemouth University. I'm studying business with the intention to specialise in either marketing or HR in my final year next year. And I'm at the moment in a placement year, so I'm working for a marketing and sales company, and as well as doing a bit of work for investors in the community on the side as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. So what we wanted to do this morning was we've brought together a group of aspiring young women who are definitely going to be ambassadors and pave the way forwards in their careers. But as you can tell through our introductions, they're all at very different stages. Some are already working, or some are entry level, about to embark on their career. And hence why it was felt, for the purpose of the audience today, bringing in the next generation and hearing from them is absolutely that key driver for you and your business, but also helping to bring together the business and the charities and their purposes driving forwards. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to ask you all, as we've all gone through, the first question. I'm going to go around each of you and individually, and then there will be other questions that will come in, but obviously we'll manage that and then we'll move into the second one. So Alex, I'm going to come to you first, actually, because you're at the point in your career. You are at the stage of applying for roles. So what we want to know, what the audience here want to know, what is it that you are looking for in a business when applying for a role in the context of what they're doing for the community, you know, their purpose, the culture? Tell us more.
Yeah, so in terms of the firms I've been looking at, they've all been quite similar, the ones I'm targeting in terms of salary, practice areas, and kind of the quality of clients they have. So for me, a key point in differentiating the ones I've been looking at is their values as a firm and what they've been doing in the community. So the ones that have really stood out to me are those that are not just saying they're kind of engaging in corporate social responsibility things, but those that are actively going out into the community and showing that, especially with COVID. So those that are, for example, one firm I know set up a helpline for those suffering domestic violence in lockdown. And another firm has also increased their volunteering hours for staff. So staff can pick a charity of their choice and they can spend 2 days of the year going out instead of being in the office and working with that charity. And then also those that have moved their legal advice online, so they can continue to support their clients, the community in that way through proactively transitioning their services. And I think that was really important for me because it shows the integrity behind what a firm is saying, because they're not just saying they're engaging in these practices, they are actively going out and showing they're making those changes.
Yeah, and one question back to you, Alex, on that is, because I think this is really interesting for our audience and myself, actually, out of personal interest to find out. Is it something that's discussed at interview stage? You know, is it something you bring up, or is it on the application forms? Or if it's not, do you think it should be?
Yeah, I think it's not something that's necessarily asked about in application forms and interviews, but I think it's something you can bring in yourself, because when they're asking why this firm, you want to be able to differentiate them from other firms of why you've picked that one as opposed to the several hundred others who are doing a similar thing.
Yeah.
So especially in terms of their values as well, I think the company wants to know that as well as them wanting you, you also want to work for them and you also have the same values. So you're going to fit into working in that environment as well, because I think it's such an important thing that you both share the same if you're going to be representing that firm.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Alex. A very powerful message out there to our businesses. So listen up, that's what I say. Abigail, I'm going to come to yourself now. So asking you the same question. obviously you're in a role in a family business, as we know through that. But when you were looking for your role, or within your role now, what do you strive for, Abigail, in terms of looking for, you know, the reason why you want to work for who you work for?
Well, so I've known Rachel my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I've always seen her, you know, how passionate she is about what she did, and her working really hard and working long hours. So from a young age, I thought, oh, what she does must be really important. And then before I joined the practice, before I officially joined the team, I attended various different events. So there was the annual company meeting, there was the charity ball, other charity events, charity golf days. And by doing that, I witnessed firsthand and got a feel for what the culture was like. So I got a sense of what the other members of staff, what they were like, other members of the team. I got to see what the types of clients that Rachel worked with, which are really varied. And I just noticed it was very warm and friendly. And you could see there was a genuine respect for each other, and friendship across the board between the team and how they interacted with the clients. And it was just really clear, the more I sort of interacted and became aware of the culture, that what Rachel did was right for the client, and that she helps change their lives for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think with Rachel, and if you think of financial advisor, you do think of, you know, men in suits, but she tries to be sort of everything that's not, and try and break that standard. And because she left the corporate environment of working in the bank so she could spend more time with her clients, it means she's got more time to do things that maybe aren't commercial, such as me going into the schools. The schools don't pay for that, and me doing financial wellbeing in the workplaces. We don't charge places to let us do that for them. So it means, you know, we can spend time with that little old lady and just help her understand the paperwork, and think of things that aren't just constantly generating money.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think that's a really interesting point, isn't it, Abigail, in terms of it isn't just about raising money for the charities and to that impact into the community. There's all those other ways of giving. And I think, you know, you're a fine example of that in the community, with all the work that you do with the education and the schools. So well done. I'm going to move through to May now. Coming back to May and asking you the question. You're in that role of where you've got a job, but you are, you know, still at the stage of looking at other opportunities, being sort of fresh from university. So just talk to us, tell the audience, you know, what's important to you when looking at a business, and who you want to work for and why.
Yeah, of course. So I definitely look at a company's values and what kind of culture they have. But I think the main thing I'm focusing on at the minute is about the opportunities that they provide, because I want to be able to make my own social impact in the community as well as within a business, rather than kind of depending on them and their brand or their status. So I think when I'm looking at a company, if they have things that can help me progress in like leadership skills or communication skills, organizational skills, those kind of things, I know that if I can self-develop, I'll then have the confidence to be able to plan events myself in the future in the community and kind of take control a little bit more, rather than being dependent on where I work. I also think it equips you more for life, because obviously you're going to move through having various roles or working for yourself or having your own company. But if you learn these skills from a business in the very beginning, then it just means you can take it and you can carry on, you know, making a difference in the community, no matter who you're working for or like what stage of life you're in.
No, very true. And I think, I mean, do you think working through the industry that you're in, obviously there's been a whole change. I mean, and Sammy, when we come to Sammy, you'll be very aware of this too, you know, with the whole events industry. Do you think these companies are going to have to push it a bit more and learn more and see what they can do to sort of help be more attractive to the next generation to work in this industry?
Yeah, I think because 100% what they invest into or what they do in the community reflects on how they treat employees or what their values are. So, for example, if a company was to support like a mental health charity, then that would tell me that they're the kind of things that they find important, and I feel more like safe and stable in that workplace because I know that that's a priority
Yeah,
for them.
no, that's fantastic. Thank you, May. And last but by no means least, let's come to Sammy. So, Sammy, the same question to you in terms of, again, you're, starting in your career, you have a role, but we had a really great conversation the other day when we talked about this question. So let's give the audience some insight into that today. So let's tell us about, when you were looking for a role, in relation, what is it about that business that attracts you to them, or what can businesses do more of? Perhaps tell us that to help attract the next generation and that talent.
Yeah, so I got my current role through an employability fair at my university, and throughout that I was kind of gauging whether I liked the people that were on there, because I love to work for good people. So if they were nice and engaging on the stall, then I thought, oh yeah, I really like that company. But what I found is that nobody really talked about their charity work or what they did. So I then had to go back and actually look myself on people's websites or on their social media, and actually look at what charity work that they actually do. And for me, it's not something that I initially look for, but if they do it, then obviously it makes me think, like what May said, if they're looking after the community, then they're also going to look after me as an employee. And for me, like, I really want to bring the charity work into my workplaces. So I do try and actively engage people into doing that. And I think that's been ingrained from school. So I went to a school where we did a lot of charity events and we were always raising money. And so from that, I then want to be an ambassador for charity work throughout any kind of role that I'm in.
Okay, thank you. And I think, the key message for all our audience today, just from this first question that we've asked, and is that, we all need to up our game. If we want our next generation to join us and sort of remain and in our workplace and evolve and become our ambassadors and our leaders, we need to listen to this voice of our next generation, and they're definitely speaking for us. So that's great answers on all of that. But what we want to do now is we're going to just bring it to a more personal driver now for you with our next question. And I think, it's always really good for us to get a bit under the skin and get to know yourselves a little bit more. So I'm going to use try and go in the same order that I went before. But Alex, I'm going to come to you first. Tell us about, is there an individual that has inspired you in what they do in the community? And I think by asking this question, just to give the context, it just helps us get to know you all as individuals, but also as a business. What else can we be doing in our community? So tell us about an individual that's inspired you at any time of your life, in more recent times, through the last 12 months or earlier.
Yeah, so I'd say an individual that's inspired me in the last 12 months is a woman in my local community called Alice Moffat, and she worked in the sports events industry, but given everything that's happened with COVID and restrictions, obviously events haven't been able to go forward. So the reason she's inspired me so much is because I think it's so easy from not being able to do the work you enjoy and love to kind of fall into a rut and think, what am I going to do with myself? But instead of doing that, she's actively gone out into the community. She's increased the hours. She works as a first responder on the ambulance. She's made face masks for people, for frontline NHS staff. She's also gone out and gone to get medical supplies for people that are self-isolating, as well as doing several trips to the shop to get shopping for more vulnerable people that aren't able to. And yeah, the reason that's really inspirational for me is because I think doing my uni work from home, I've also had those moments where I've been really down and it's hard to pick yourself back up again. So the fact that she's been able to do that and use the free time that she's now accumulated to benefit other people rather than kind of, you know, just sitting around and letting it get to her is very inspirational for someone like myself.
Yeah, no, great, and a great role model. So yeah, thank you, Alex. Abigail, to you next. Can you the same question? Who's inspired you?
So throughout sort of lockdown, I repeatedly spoke to a lady called Becky Linton. So she works for the Cumberland Building Society, and she was always super busy. She was the communication executive. So as I'm sure a lot of you know, when it was COVID, everyone was trying to keep up appearances and keep active so people can see them and things like that. But she was still using up so much of her time volunteering and trying to help others. So she's a dementia ambassador, and she actually delivered dementia awareness course to our team. And she was one of those people that volunteered and on the phone to, whenever people got lonely. She would do that on an evening where she would be on the phone to speak to them. She's a mental health first aider. And I just remember speaking to her because she was always checking in and making sure she was okay. And I just remember speaking to her and thinking, well, I said to her, how do you have time to do anything? Because it was just, her day was just filled from start to end with, managing a team at work, making sure everyone else was okay, being really busy at work, but then still being there for the dementia awareness, checking on everybody else's mental health, doing volunteering outside of work. And I did just think, what a selfless person. While I was sort of struggling and maybe feeling sorry for myself at times, she was just picking herself back up and helping others, which I thought was great.
Okay, no, thank you. And May, the same question to you.
So an individual that has inspired me is a guy called Stephen Reburn. He did a fundraising event a couple of months ago for a charity called Peter House, which is for male suicide. And he decided he was going to run 200 kilometers without any shoes or socks, which, as you can tell, is a pretty amazing challenge. And he's very determined to be able to do that. But the part that inspired me the most was he was not focused on the monetary side of things or like the donations. He was more focused on going through different villages and stopping and chatting to people on the way. And he actually created a lot more value for that charity through creating a following for them rather than just a one-off donation. Obviously, he raised a lot, I think it was like 10,000, but actually just spreading that awareness, he realised was a lot more beneficial to them in the long term. So yeah, I think that was really inspiring.
Oh, this is great, getting right under the skin. It's brilliant to hear sort of what inspires you, and you can actually see when you all speak the little spark come in your eyes, so it's lovely to see. Sammy, what about yourself? So same question.
So I think for me, there's an individual who works for a charity who was the event manager, and so when I was at university I got to volunteer with her, and we put on the Pride of Buxton Awards. And that was a really nice event because it was a charity run event, but it also brought a lot of other charities together and a lot of local businesses also together because they could kind of sponsor a award, and then all of the community was together because they got to vote for their nominees and kind of really highlight all the amazing people that were in the community of Buxton, but also further afield. And obviously people got to nominate who they thought. So some people that may have been unspoken for actually were then put in the spotlight. And I thought that was a really nice event to bring so many people from all across that. Well, it was probably about the Peak District really, and how amazing all of those charities were. And I really liked that event. And I think for me, that's inspired me in my event career, because I would really like to carry on doing charity events like that, which would bring all the community together. And I think it's just really nice.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, thank you all. And I think what's what's great to see and fills, I'm sure, not just myself, but the rest of the audience with pride is how much pride you all take in the community and giving back, and what inspires you. And so, you know, it's fantastic to listen and hear. So we're going to bring it back to the business sense now, as the last question to the panel. It's been very difficult just to condense into 3 questions, actually, because I think we could have all happily carried on with much further conversations. So the final question, and I'm going to start with yourself again, Alex, we'll work in the same order. We talked the other day about in the world of business, and you know, is there a brand out there or a business, small or large, you know, that inspires you, that stands out in the marketplace, that would want you to work for that organisation?
Yeah, so for me, it's not necessarily one that I'd want to work for, but one I'm working for currently. So I'm part-time at the moment as a retail associate at HomeSense, which is obviously a very well-known big retail brand. But what I really liked about what they've been doing at the minute is they've been using their presence and the funds that they have, the resources, to actually create a fund for smaller charities that have been undertaking work in a community during COVID. So they've had nominations from staff members about charities in their local community who they think deserve recognition, and then giving contributions to them, which I think is really important, because they could be donating to, I guess, some of the bigger brands and charities, which they do contributions to the Princess Trust and the Red Cross, etc. But I think it's also really important that they're recognising some of the smaller charities as well, who aren't as well known.
Yeah.
And then additionally, we've also been doing work such as donating a lot of our food to food banks, which some of our staff members and my colleagues have been able to get involved in, which hopefully I can have that opportunity as well when I eventually go back to work. But yeah, I think it makes me really proud that I work for a company that's able to do things like that and use the resources they have. And in terms of the business themselves, it also is reflected on the way they treat their staff, because since I've been there since August, when the pandemic was kind of in full force, they've been really supportive of me in general, and it's just a very nice environment to work in.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to speed through and move on to Abigail. I'm mindful. There's a clock, which I don't want this session to end, but I want to make sure that everyone gets to answer this question. So, Abigail, what about yourself?
I'll keep it quick because I know we're racing against time to get everyone in. But I spoke about Cumberland Building Society because that's where Becky worked. The Cumberland Building Society, so they're in financial services as well as me, but I just think what they do for the community is amazing. They do financial education in schools, so they sort of set the bar and inspired me to get involved. They were helping, there's a school in Carlisle that has pupils with severe learning difficulties. They taught them about money, and they opened up a little cashier that the pupils work in, to help them deposit money, learn about how a bank works, and they'll deposit their money for their lunch and take it out. And they've taught them about that, so that helps them with the numeracy and communication skills. They also have a community day every year where all members of staff can volunteer somewhere. They also give grants out, so they've given grants to, more recently, there's somewhere that helps the homeless. I think there's 11 that can house, and because of COVID they had a shortage of staff, so they granted them £15 so they could then get some emergency staffing to make sure people that were homeless still had somewhere to go. And they've also given money to those working on the critical care team, and lots of things like that, but I'll let you go on.
No, that's fantastic, and it's great to hear that you know what inspires you about a business or a brand that works, that you would like to work for. I'm going to move through to May and you know, and ask the same question to yourself, May. You know, is there a business or a brand that stands out to you, and you know, it's sort of that you would want to work for?
Mine's a similar answer to Alex, to be fair. I'm just going to use the company that I work in at the moment, just because they've got me involved in charity work that I probably didn't think I'd have time to do if I didn't work there. It's a sales company, so we have different campaigns going at different times. And our manager always makes sure that one of them is a charitable campaign. So just before lockdown, we were supporting Great Ormond Street Hospital, which is a children's hospital in London. And it just meant that we could base our work around a really great cause. And at the end of each campaign, our manager makes sure that we all get like an individual certificate to say how much we've raised for them individually. And I think it gets us involved as a business, but it also makes you responsible for how much money like I raise, because it depends on how hard I work and how long I do the campaign for. So I think it, again, as Alex was saying, it just makes me quite proud to work there and want to share that with everyone.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And last, but again, by no means least, Sammy, we're going to come to you. I'm also just going to clarify, I'm aware there are questions coming up in the chat, but I'm sure like myself, you as an audience want to hear what these aspiring young women have to say. So I'm going to let them have the airtime, and we will obviously follow up and answer the questions after today. So Sammy, what about yourself in terms of a business or a brand that stands out to you?
Yes, so in the summer, I was meant to go and work in Disney in Florida, which was going to be part of the cultural exchange program. And I was really excited to go and work for Disney just because of the culture, and I was going to meet people from all over the world. But also as part of that role, we would get to go and do some volunteering. And they really encourage that volunteering experience while you're out in Florida, and you really get to go and help loads of different people throughout the whole community. And I was really excited, obviously, to do that, and that was a really big factor in kind of wanting to work for Disney. I think it would have just been the most amazing experience. Obviously, because of COVID, I couldn't go, but Disney is one up there for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I think the message out there to our audience today is, you know, you might always think that you are doing lots for the community and through your organisation and your brand and fulfilling your purpose. But I think, you know, the key message here is listen to our next generation, listen to that talent that you want to bring in and work for your organisation, because they are definitely our ambassadors and our drivers for the future. So just before I hand back to Dave, I would like to say thank you very much to Alex, to Abigail, to May and to Sammy. We've all got to know each other over this last week. You've done a brilliant job, and I look forward to being able to catching up again with you all and at the next stage and more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. And again, yeah, my thanks to all of you on the panel for presenting this afternoon. And just so we've just seen, I think, 4 future leaders on that screen, without doubt.
We have, definitely. It's exciting, really good to see.
But just before you go, just one subtle comment that has to be made, I think, is I talked about the future and I brought you on the stage with your panel. Is the future just the girls? There's no guys?
You know, I knew you'd have this. I knew always controversial. No, not at all. And I look forward to engaging and embracing more future and next generation of all different sexes on the.
I know. I just
Just don't feeling left out.
For people out there, that when I say here's a picture of the future and on the screen appears some great individuals, but
well, watch out, world. That's all I say. Yeah.
Well, Sue, thanks once again for hosting and looking after our next generation panel through the week and today. Okay.
Thank you.
See you later. Okay, everyone. Right, just to finish off. So it's obviously a big thank you time to everybody that's been here and attending the event today. One thing we've been working on just in the background, I was hoping to Buddy the Husky, who featured earlier on, if you were with us from the beginning of the day. He was in makeup for quite some time earlier. We've been trying to bring him out onto stage. I don't know, this must be Buddy's owner, Phil?
He owns me, I think, Dave. He owns me.
That's not how it works, right? I've never, in all the years of presenting, I don't think I've ever been upstaged by a husky, but
Yes,
It's
I
been
hope
great.
not to be again, but there we go. Well, perhaps so we can address the balance. Buddy is a boy, of course. Would you like to see him?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
We need
this
to
is
see who's
this is Buddy in his natural state. Okay, as you can
That's
see.
not what I
in
saw
fact,
earlier today. He was quite lively, I believe.
I can wake him up with one command. He's very obedient. Buddy, pussycats. And there we have Buddy in his unnatural state. So he's very pleased to be part of this today. On a more serious note, Buddy is actually raising money for charity this month. In fact, every month this year. So each and every month, I'm donating £3 a day, £90 a month, on the basis that Buddy creates his target to meet his walking target for every single day of the week. So he's actually got so many hours of every week he has to go walking. And when he does that, of course, we donate the money to charity. So even he's doing his little bit right now in order to raise money for charities. Buddy, come here. And so this
Okay, right. Well,
he's very
thanks,
pleased.
Phil. And as always, Buddy, yeah, comes in at the beginning of the day. He's got the last word almost on there. But great to see that he's also doing something for the community and for charities. Can I just a big shout out really to Louise Stokes for managing the platform for us today. I hope those of you trying this out for the first time have found it invaluable to listen to the speakers on one side, but more importantly, connect with each other and engage. Nadia from the Investors and Community team is more than happy to connect you all after this. So please get in touch with the IIC team. And then aside from that, I know questions came through really about the slides that were shown, some of Richard's slides, a lot of detail on those slides. But so I think the slides that were there, then I'm sure we can arrange to get them out to people. And as always, this is always the start of something. So please continue conversations, work together. This is collaboration time. The businesses, the charities, all working together, influencers, everyone work on this and bringing this whole thing about purpose. In fact, this afternoon, when you're going back into your work environments, which is probably on screen, to be fair, isn't it? Your work environments on screen, go with purpose and think about what you're doing out there. And are we doing everything that we possibly could? You're hearing from some inspirational people, and our next gen's there talking about finding that time. It's not about big brands. It's not about big businesses and big sort of names out there. They're all name checking individuals that will all be living around us that are doing some incredible things. So reach out to those people, find those stories. What are they doing? How can I help? And then we really will, as points have been made from a number of our speakers today, I think level up society generally. So thank you all for today. And we'd like to bring on an event similar to this very soon. So we hope you will continue to support everything that we're doing. And I just want to wish you a good rest of day and thank you for your attendance.